told anybody else, and things like that, which I felt like I could do in almost any state. And instead, I found myself on camera, sitting across from a very intelligent and very provocative journalist who asked me what I meant exactly when I'd said earlier this year that Obama had broken my heart. She said she'd noticed that I kept my personal politics out of the press I was doing for The Honorable Woman, and she asked me whether that was an example of what Desmond Tutu was talking about when he said staying silent means that you're siding with the oppressor. She asked me what I thought about Shailene Woodley having said that she wasn't a feminist and whether or not I was a feminist. And then she rounded the whole thing off by saying that there'd been a recent survey she'd found about whether or not my brother or I was more beautiful, and that my brother had won in a landslide. So that day, I was not clear-headed enough to answer any of those questions in the way that I wanted to, but I haven't stopped thinking about any of them. And today I want to talk about the one about Shailene Woodley and feminism, because I think this is the right crowd. So when I left that particular interview, I wished I hadn't been hungover. I wished I'd woken up at 6:30 and made my kids breakfast. I wish I'd been clear-headed and funny and sexy and smart in the interview, but that isn't what happened. What happened that day is that I was just me, and I was doing my best. I succeeded some even in that difficult interview. I failed some, I learned things, I missed some things. And I think that that's one of the things that my generation of feminism has been about. The difference between who you think you should be and who you actually are. So from my perspective, my mother, who's here, her generation, give her a round of applause. My mother's generation, this is from my perspective, was trying to do it all and do it perfectly. I think the cultural threat was prove that you can have a career and have a family. If you make a mistake or a misstep, you're out. So the model was, or what was modeled for me was, we can handle it, all of it. Watch this, watch us. So anyway, then I started thinking about the scene from Baby Boom, the Diane Keaton movie, amazing, brilliant Diane Keaton, who's a hero of mine. And for some reason, this particular scene pops into my head. Now, I looked it up on IMDb last night, and the movie came out in 1987. I don't think I've seen it more than once, and I remember seeing it in a mall in the Beverly Center. So I must have been 10. So forgive me if this is not exactly what happened in the movie, but what I remember is Diane Keaton dropped out of the corporate world to where she was a huge superstar to make baby food and raise her daughter in Vermont, which is a fantasy I've had. But she's such a brilliant mind and a natural businesswoman that her baby food company has become a multi-million-dollar enterprise, and in the end, happily ever after, she is on the phone, changing her baby's diaper on her desk, single mother, talking to her canning manufacturer. This is like in the happily ever after montage. To me, that sounds like hell. And also, it's funny that you were showing clips of League Their Own, because that has somehow come back into my life also. A 20-something babysitter who was helping us out brought it over for my kids to watch, and both of my kids are obsessed with that movie. My daughter, who's 2.5, my husband sent me a video a couple of weeks ago of her sitting on her little potty saying, "There's no quiet in baseball." And my older daughter spent almost all of October trying to get her to be Madonna's character in that movie for Halloween. But I do have to say though, so I watched most of the movie with Ramona, my older daughter, and at the end of it she said to me, "I want to go see a women's baseball game." And I think I'm right in that there isn't any women's baseball. And I told her that, and she said, "Then what is the point of that movie?" So I realized that Baby Boom and A League of Their Own is not a fair representation of feminist movies of the 80s. But I was a kid in the 80s, and those were some of the movies that I was actually watching, which is why I think they're coming to mind now. Of course, I was also influenced by a lot of other things, and in particular by my mother, who is a screenwriter and a producer, and it makes me cry. Seeing her failures and her successes, I do think she came from a generation where she suffered from feeling like she had to do everything perfectly. And I've watched my mother, as things have shifted and grown, let go of that. And I've watched her soar because of it. I remember saying to a very wise friend of mine, "I'm not perfect, you know." And she said, "That implies that you think you're even close." So when I was about 22 and I started making movies, that's what I was looking for. I was looking for characters who were far from perfect, women who were trying to be human. I would never have said, like Shailene Woodley did, that I wasn't a feminist. I was never radical enough to put something like that out there. But I was railing against what had come before me, this kind of fantasy of a powerful, perfect woman who can manage it all. And when I made Secretary, I was asking, can I tell a story about a woman who feels empowered and loved by being subjugated? Is that allowed? What if she really does feel that way? Will I be excommunicated? And I waited for a kind of old school feminist backlash. And in some ways, I'm still railing against what came before me. I hate it when journalists say to me, you know, aren't I so glad that there's this wealth of parts for powerful women in television? I don't know what that means. I don't want to play powerful women. I feel powerful some very small percentage of the time. And the rest of the time, I feel a spectrum of other things. Some of them enviable, some of them not. And so I'm looking to play women who feel like that. Sometimes powerful, sometimes not. Like my friends, like my mother, like most of us in this room, I assume, if we're honest. And I think if I played that scene from Baby Boom now in 2014, I might do it weeping. But what's interesting to me is that there was no old school feminist backlash against Secretary. Of course, I could never have made that movie or asked those questions without the women who came before me. And I think most of those women saw that, and I think so did I. I wanted the women who came before me to be able to take the challenge, and they could. And I remember Susan Sarandon at an event like this, right after Secretary came out, handing me a napkin that said something on it like, "Good for you." So this brings me back to Shailene Woodley. I don't know her, and I don't know exactly what she meant when she said she wasn't a feminist, but I saw her in The Descendants, and she is clearly a force to be reckoned with. And I imagine when she said that she was railing against us, wondering if we could stand up to it, and trying to move the conversation forward in her own way. When you're really young, you've got to rail, you've got to rage, you've got to throw away what's no longer useful. And then, when we're past that and we've grown up a little, we have to do everything we can to support each other, even when it's hard, even when envy rears its ugly head. I remember going to see Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and sitting back in my seat and thinking, who the hell is this Rooney Mara? And then she blew my fucking socks off. Envy and judgment are the opposite of curiosity and compassion and inspiration and learning. So in my 30s, I say rage against envy and competition and who wore it better pictures in People magazine, and rage against the status quo, and let the really young girls make mistakes and say things that they regret, and let them rage against us. We need it. It's revolution. It's evolution. And if we do that, soon it will be my daughters railing against the brilliant Lena Dunham, who will seem very tame and old school by then. And hopefully she will laugh and toast their feminist rebel spirits.